Hey, it's Todd Duncan. Welcome to day 12. We're in the midst of a 21-day experience together. It is called hashtag 2020 Gave Me. And what I'm doing every day is asking for you to spend 10 to 15 minutes watching a short video and answering a question. One of the gifts that 2020 gave me is the gift of surrender, or what I refer to as flow. Flow is the opposite of push. Flow is curiosity. Push is control. Flow is surrender. Push is resistance. I awaken one morning, and as is often the case when Deb and I have ideas, especially ones we want to remember, we rely on sticky notes. She had one of those nights. Creative, unrestfully powerful. Crazy, right? She got out of bed a couple of times, and when I asked her in the morning, hey, what was going on last night? She grabbed my hand and she led me to the bathroom mirror. Now, to picture our bathroom mirror, I have to conscientiously remove stickies so that I can see my face in the mirror when I'm shaving. That's how many sticky notes we have. I'd like to think of our home as a creative factory. It's an imagination factory. And my wife it's just unbelievable. So I'm in the bathroom and she's taking me right to her two new notes. One sticky note said, imagine this, Sharpie, high, dark font, fills up the entire sticky note. 0%. That's it, just the number 0 and then a percentage sign. Next to it on the right was the other sticky note that said 100, the number, percent. So I've got 0% on one sticky note. I got 100% on the other sticky note. Her middle of the night discovery was simply the truth. We cannot control what we cannot control, so we should stop trying to control it. We cannot control what we cannot control, so we should stop trying to control it. As soon as we understand that we move on a scale from push to flow, we're going to get this idea. I believe the most powerful form of progress is flow. Creative and inspired living is birthed at the intersection of control and surrender. One of my life coaches, I just simply call her Dr. K. She's pretty famous. She works with a lot of famous people, and I am not one of them, but I have a family in. But she's amazing. She's in fact a doctor, but more importantly, someone I consider to be masterful in equipping people for a more complete and connected life experience. I see her every 6 weeks, and the results are just profound. In reviewing my journal from our appointment, something jumped out at me that I believe was the catalyst in understanding and embracing this principle. She said, "What's in front of you is exactly what should be." Just take that for a second. COVID gets announced. What's in front of you is exactly what should be. Wow, really? And then she went on to say, how you handle it defines who you become. How you handle it defines who you become. Back to the stickies, 0%, 100%. I have 0% control over COVID being real, but I have 100% control over how I will move through it. I can't control anything about COVID except only what I can control, which is that personal space and my own personal health, other gifts that we've talked about. But the bigger picture is in life. What's in front of you is exactly what should be. How you handle it defines who you become. And so we think about this idea, and that means that every day, hundreds of moments confront us. We often see these as standard issue of challenges and problems and opportunities and maybe a host of other instant labels that actually define almost immediately how we proceed. Voicemail, call me back or else. Okay, we get to decide. That's a moment, right? Somebody says yes, somebody says no. That's a moment. You lose some money and you'd prefer not losing it. That's a moment. Somebody, is angry at you. That's a moment. You gain 3 pounds because you went on a food bender. That's a moment. Moments happen. The moments, that all life is one big string of moments. But you got to define the moment, and you got to decide what level of control do I have over this moment. I think far too often when moments appear, our first response is to try to control the moment. Sometimes with immediate reaction, sometimes with anger, frustration, many times with fear and uncertainty and a host of other emotions. But at the end of the day, all those attempts are like push, an external reaction to that moment leading to an action. Or sometimes, I might add, an overreaction, which only produces additional complications, forcing more of the same in recurring situations. Flow is the opposite of push. Flow is an internal pause, a reflection of sorts, a decisioning process that involves detaching from the natural, personal, and physical, easy response to a deeper, more emotional and connected conversation with your soul before you ever decide what your external response is going to be. That requires discipline. These conversations can be fast in some cases. In others, they require deeper reflection. Some questions I asked often in the midst of moments. Why is this happening? What is the purpose of this moment? What is good about this moment? What is this moment teaching me? How can I best serve through this moment? What impact will this have on my day, my week, my life? What's the best decision in this moment that will produce the greatest joy and the least regret? Just powerful questions. In his book, The Surrender Experiment, Michael Singer talks about his 40-year journey from where his transformation from a push-oriented approach to life to a flow-oriented approach or surrender created an operating system that unleashed a life of wonder, joy, pain, growth, impact, and significance. One of my big takeaways were these words on page 65 if you read the book. He said, by that stage of my growth, I could see that the practice of surrender was actually done in two very distinct steps. First, you let go of the personal reactions of like and dislike that form inside your mind and soul. And second, with the resulting sense of clarity, you simply look to see what is being asked of you by the moment, the situation unfolding in front of you. What would you be doing if you weren't being influenced by the reactions of like or dislike? Following that deeper guidance will take your life in a very different direction from where your preferences would have led you. What flow does is keep you on the path of progress to a more perfect state of connectedness with God, the universe, with your heart and deepest desires, and with those in your life that you're going to go the distance with, like your spouse, family, and friends. There was a moment while I was reading the Surrender Experiment where it got very real for me in understanding flow. The author was talking about how flow got him to start a software company. And he didn't know how to program or write code, but eventually created a company called Personalized Programming. Go figure. Because the company was him and a Radio Shack computer, old school for anybody that's watching this, personalizing a program for a friend who had a small business, and that was the why behind the name, Personalized Programming. So the business took off. Fast forward. He says, none of us were sophisticated business people or experienced professional programmers. We were just people who had been brought together by the energy to do a task. Normally, successful businesses have to plan their growth by developing business plans and financial budgets. In our case, our only business plan was to try to keep up with life's powerful wave that was carrying us forward. Our only budget was to hire whoever showed up who could help us, but no matter how hard we tried, it seemed that life just kept stepping things up to another level. Flow is not easy, and it is certainly not taking the path of least resistance. It's hard, but like anything, the more you do it, the more you see how the plan is working itself out. The winds of change and pressure often are blowing in a gift for us. We need to be quiet enough to see that gift and act on it. Any situation that has any element of pressure to change will force the presence of the gift. Change happens when we see the gift. No pressure. We don't resist it. We sit quietly and see what action we need to take to let the gift be the positive change we seek. Surrender leads to serenity. So here's the question of the day. Where do you need to embrace more flow and exert less control? How would your personal world change? How would your professional world change? Surrender is about giving up to go up. It's about being curious about life's moments and making decisions in those moments on what the world and the universe and your God are teaching you. Where do you need to embrace more flow and exert less control?